Hey there guys, this is Alrighty with Good Guys Gear. Sorry we haven't put anything out in a while. Kickstand and I have both been really busy lately and tired and stuff, and just haven't been able to find time to make any videos. Today I was actually working on something that started raining, so I decided I'd come inside and talk to you guys a little bit about guns. In this video I'm going to talk about picking your rifle. I kind of touched on this a little bit in my tabletop review of my SOCOM 16, and I'm going to get a little bit more kind of in-depth but also general on the discussion of deciding what you want your gun to be and what section of the firearms world you should even be shopping in the first place. And so for today's video, I've got my standard Springfield M1a, 22-inch barrel, basic M1a. It is a little bit modified. I do have my Sadlac mag catch and Smith Enterprises bolt stop, and it's also got, you can't see this, but it's got a GI extractor and a GI firing pin for reliability and longevity. So that's going to be our heavy rifle for today. And then it's not a rifle, it's a pistol. But for our light weapon, I've got my my M1a 5.56 AK with the forearm brace for our light weapon. And I'm just going to talk about what you should be looking for. And the reason that I bring this up, the reason I want to make a video about this, is that a lot of times, if you get into this, if you get into forums and you start, God forbid, asking questions on forums and getting everybody's opinion, and you say, hey guys, should I buy an M1a? You're going to have people say, no, an AR-15 is better than an M1a, or an AK is better than an M1a. Or the other way around, sometimes you'll ask if an AK or an AR-15 is good, and you'll have some old guy get on there and say, steal, my son, steal. And neither one of those is the correct answer. Those people aren't right when they give you that answer. One of the things that will commonly be pointed to, especially if you're leaning in the heavy battle rifle direction, is that heavy battle rifles are more or less gone in large use from the modern military environment, I guess you would say. Especially if you ask about M1As, everybody's going to say that the M1A or the M14 has the shortest service life of any U.S. rifle, and so it's a piece of crap, and obviously an AR-15 is better because they've been used since the demise of the M14, which is true in that the M14 was only issued for a very short period of time as our standard service rifle, and actually the M14 gives an excellent example of why heavy battle rifles are not really the most common weapon to see in military field these days. And so to explain why that is, when the U.S. military put out the request for a new weapon after Korea, they had in service at the time the M1 Garand as their primary service weapon, which was unquestionably a heavy battle rifle. And then they had the M1 carbine in a lightweight assault rifle type, smaller, lower power than your modern intermediate cartridges, but we'll say in an assault rifle type role, just for the sake of simplicity, because there's not really anything to compare it to now. And then they had the Thompson submachine gun and the grease gun at the same time, both filling the super close quarters trench broom type role. I don't know the number on the grease gun. I know it's got a military designation. Put it in the comments if you know what it is. I've never really looked into it. And then they had the 1903 as a marksman's rifle. And then they had the Browning automatic rifle as a squad automatic weapon. And then They even had the 30 caliber belt-fed machine gun. Again, I don't know the number. All in service at the same time, possibly all in the same unit. Same squad of guys has, if they left the belt-fed gun at home, they might have 6 different guns. Or, if they only carried Thompsons and no grease guns, 5 different guns in service at the same time in the same group of guys. They had to issue 30-06 in 3 different forms, en blocks for the M1 Garands, stripper clips or loose ammo for the 1903 marksman's rifles with a scope, and then whatever mechanism they used to get 20 rounds into a bar mag. Logistically, major pain in the ass, honestly. And so what they asked for was a gun that would do all of those things, that, would have the long-range accuracy and power of a battle rifle while being light and maneuverable and offering select fire like a M1 carbine, but also be able to withstand extended fully automatic fire like a Browning automatic rifle, but be light and maneuverable enough to be a submachine gun, fill a submachine gun role, and it's not possible. And they found that out. They put that request out, and then predominantly you had the M14, the FAL, and the AR-10. I'm sure there were other guns in that trial, but those are the 3 that are most famous and most mentioned. They might be the only 3, I don't know. And so they selected one, they did their whole trial thing, they settled on the M14, and they were disappointed. And it's no surprise that they were disappointed, because they were asking for something that's absolutely impossible. You can't have all of those things in one gun. It's just, even now, modern heavy battle rifles like the SCAR 17, it's going to be more maneuverable than an M14 or a 21-inch barrel FAL, so it would lean more towards an assault rifle or a submachine gun, but it's still not as maneuverable or as controllable as an assault rifle or a submachine gun. Yet at the same time, it's also not as much of a heavy battle rifle as an M14 or a 21-inch barrel FAL would have been. And I can tell you that for a fact from personal experience, because if I start shooting a 3/8 inch steel plate with my standard M1a and my SOCOM 16, the 16-inch barrel SOCOM will not penetrate it except for very, very close range maybe, where the 22-inch barrel M1a will penetrate 3/8 of an inch of steel all the way out to 100 yards fairly reliably, as long as it's not at an angle or anything like that. So in trying to balance more towards the assault rifle, they lost part of the heavy battle rifle. So, impossible concept. And so in my opinion, any of those guns would have had a short service life, because they changed the way they wanted to go to war. They decided they wanted to go to war with an assault rifle. Most countries have decided that they want to go to war with an assault rifle, not a heavy battle rifle. And that's, I feel like honestly that's going to affect the military a lot more than it is an individual person, because, airstrikes and artillery and armored vehicles and all of this stuff, you're just not as likely to be in a situation where, you need to actually engage for an extended period of time at, 800 or 1,000 yards like you would in World War I or World War II, because at that range, you can call in an airstrike or artillery. And I think that's definitely the direction that modern militaries are leaning, so they've moved away from the heavy battle rifle. That doesn't mean that there's no reason to have a heavy battle rifle, and it doesn't mean there aren't countries that still carry them. But anyway, for you, when you get out there and you're trying to decide what you want, and you make the fatal mistake of getting on a forum or going into a gun store and saying, is blank better than blank? Before you even get into that, you need to decide the A or B question. Do I want a compact, lightweight, close quarters, carbine type rifle, Or do I want a big, heavy, powerful, high recoil battle rifle? One of those systems is not better than the other. One of those weapons ideologies is not better than the other. Fact of the matter is, the worst heavy battle rifle will be better in a situation where you need a heavy battle rifle than the best assault type rifle. It's just, if you have to shoot through a car, this is better than this. It's a fact. If you have to shoot 800 yards, this is better than this. If you have to clear a house, this is better. Every time. The guns that shoot it are lighter, they're lower recoil, they're smaller, they're more maneuverable. So every time in your assault rifle situation, your worst assault rifle is probably better than your best battle rifle. So don't go out and start asking your gun questions, starting out with which one of these two is better, because that's a cut and dry. That has to do with you, not the world's opinion. You know that personally I prefer a heavy battle rifle. I have 2 of them, and I really, really like them. I like the fact that if you carry an M1a or a FAL or a G3 or any of those guns, that clear shot is subjective, not a statement of fact. If you're holding an AR-15 and it's 400 yards and you say clear shot, that's what you mean. You mean clear shot, like a guy standing naked in a field, because it's not going to work if there's anything between you and him at that distance. With an M14 at 400 yards, clear shot could mean behind a car. So I like that. I like that it gives you some real power and penetration and stuff. And actually, the U.S. military brought the M14 back for that exact reason when they got into the Middle East, because every structure is concrete and they could all be considered hardened. And the 5.56 guns they had weren't cutting it. An M4 or an M16 just wouldn't shoot through the walls of those buildings, and the M14 would. And so they refielded them, even in stock, rifle stock with iron sights configuration, not super fancy marksman's rifles, just M14s in GI stocks were reissued because under the circumstances, they needed a battle rifle. And the best M4 or the best M16 would not out battle rifle a bone stock M14. Just like a bone stock M14 will not out assault rifle an assault rifle. I like both of these guns. I own both of these guns. I'm familiar with both of these guns. If I had to start clearing a building, and I was on one side with my M85 and I was on the other side with my M14, and one of me was going to win, M85 me would almost guaranteed win, because that's what it's for. 400 yards apart, me hiding behind a car with an M85 and me hiding behind a car with my M1a, the M1a is going to win, because that's what it's for. So you need to settle that before you get into asking what's better. Once you have that settled, is, an AK, an AR-15, a CZ Brand 805, a Scar 16, the new Galil Ace, is one of those better in that set of guns? That's a question that you can ask. You'll also get ridiculous opinions, but it's a reasonable question to ask if you're trying to decide what gun you want. If you want a heavy battle rifle, M1a, G3, FAL, AR-10, Scar 17, reasonable question to ask. Not that you won't get off-the-wall answers, but it's a reasonable question to ask. So settle that for yourself before you get into any, before you start leaning towards this platform or leaning towards that platform or thinking that you would rather have an AK than an AR-15 or anything like that. Settle the big versus little question. And once you have that choice made, then you can start asking questions about what would be the better gun for you. But that question is something that you need to settle for yourself before you even start thinking about picking a platform. And nobody can answer that question for you. That's 100% situational, your situation, not somebody else's. Personal preference. Are you a good shot? If you're not a particularly good shot and you're not going to have any time to practice and you want something just so that, you have something, carrying a 10-pound heavy battle rifle is probably not going to make that much sense, because there's no point in having an 800-yard gun if you're going to do good to hit it 100 yards. It's a waste of weight, it's a waste of money. Buy yourself an AK, buy yourself an AR-15, and that way at least some of the attributes of that weapon will still be useful to you as somebody who's not a good shot and is not going to have time to practice becoming a good shot. So take everything into consideration when you decide if you want 5.56 or 7.62 by 39 or 7.62 by 51, and then go on from there and decide what individual platform within each of those two groups of weapon you would rather carry, based on you, not everybody else, not on the internet's opinion. I'm not going to tell you that you should have one of these or you should have the other one of these, because that is up to you and what you want to do. Anyhow, that's it for today, guys. I hope, if you watch this, if you're trying to look into deciding what kind of a gun you're looking for, that this sort of clears up a lot of the questions that you might have, those initial questions when you first start out that people want to answer with ridiculous stuff, like saying that their choice of assault rifle is better than such and such choice of battle rifle, because that's not a comparison. There's no comparison there. The two don't overlap. The tactical overlap between this M1a and that AK is virtually zero, and it is more or less with any heavy battle rifle and any assault rifle. They're completely different. So settle that huge gap and then pick your gun. But anyhow, thanks for watching, guys. This is Alrighty with Good Guys Gear, and we'll try to be a little bit more steady. I know I promise this all the time, but maybe we'll get out and shoot some guns soon again. I haven't shot lately near as much as I need to, so I'll probably be rusty next time I do, but that's okay. Thanks for watching, comment, subscribe, and we'll get back to you. Thanks, guys.